Let's talk about running backs that you need to be starting in week 3 of fantasy football. We're going to put them in buckets. We're going to have our smash starts, our solid starts, and our high risk, high reward starts. We're not going to have any of the obvious players on this list, the Derrick Henrys, the Christian McCaffreys, all the guys on the screen right now will not be talked about. I don't feel like I need to tell you to start Christian McCaffrey and to bench Brian Robinson Jr. There just really is no point. So we're going to focus on players that you actually have to make a decision on. Let's start with the high risk, high reward guys. These are going to be the guys that are a little bit riskier. You can throw them in your flex this week if you're really desperate, and they could really come through for you in a monster way. Let's start with Bayshul Tuten, who looked really good in his new role as the RB2 behind Travis Etienne. We know Tank Bigsby no longer on the roster. He saw a 25% target share and still produced 8 carries, 42 yards, 5.3 yards per carry, 2 receptions for 32 yards, including that beautiful receiving touchdown where he juked that D lineman out of his shorts, 15.4 fantasy points. His role is only going to continue to grow in this offense. Remember, he was handpicked by Liam Cohen. This is his guy. Yes, Travis Etienne is the RB1. We have kind of seen this before with Travis Etienne where he comes out the gate on fire and then either gets injured or just kind of cools down. I don't think he's an exceptional running back at this point. Has he looked good so far through the first 2 weeks? Yes, but I do honestly think Tuten is the better player. And like I said, if you need to put someone in your flex who could have a big game at any moment, who could score a touchdown from anywhere on the field, that's Tuten. 4.3 speed. He's one of the more explosive backs in the NFL already. Again, you have to understand Cohen wants to desperately get Tuten the ball. He wants to show everyone what he has in his shiny toy, his new draft pick. I understand if you want to leave Bayshul on your bench for now because we don't really know how it's going to shake out. But if you are in a pinch and you need a guy to plug into your roster that could potentially win you your week, it's Tuten because he is the most explosive, efficient back on this roster, and his role is going to continue to grow. He's going to have a bigger role in week 3. It's going to grow a little bit every single week. The takeover will be coming. On to our next guy, another guy who I think is a high-risk, high-reward player in week 3, and that's Cam Skattebo, another rookie running back who is just breathing down the starters back. I mean, he might already be the starter really at this point. Like 2 weeks are in the books, and it feels like he is the Giants' RB1. In terms of a usage standpoint, he is at this point. We talked about this all summer. Tyrone Tracy is just not a special back. He doesn't really have a role in this backfield that the Giants want to use him in. He's not really exceptional in anything. Cam is a one-man wrecking ball. He is so fun to watch. 51% of the snaps in week 2, while leading the team in rush attempts at 55%. Tracy still saw the 2-minute drill, but Cam still ran 42% of the routes out of the backfield. So they're using Cam in the passing game. They're using Cam in the red zone as he saw 100% of the snaps inside the 5-yard line. So they want to use Cam in close, which resulted in a touchdown in week 2. They want to throw him the ball. Like, the Giants prefer Cam in every facet of their running game, every facet that we really care about for fantasy. And that's really bad for Tracy because he just doesn't have a role, which means he's just going to get phased out. 11 carries, 45 yards, touchdown for Cam. Last week, he had that impressive 24-yard run and then finished it off on the next play. Got into the end zone, 2 receptions, 14 yards, 13.9 fantasy points, and had the second highest rushing grade among all running backs in week 2 at 82.8%. This is a really good back. This was an ultra-talented, ultra-productive back in college. It just makes sense. Skattebo is meant to be a Giant. He plays with swagger. He plays with determination. He is so fun to watch, like I said, and the Giants love him. It's evident. This is another guy that it's hard to necessarily start him this week. If you are in a pinch, though, I'm okay doing that. I think he's a solid spot start here. It is against the Kansas City Chiefs run defense, so that's not ideal. But get him on your roster. Try to buy him low. If he's somehow on the waiver wire, pick him up. He needs to be on your team, and I'm okay starting him in your flex if you have to, if you really need a running back. If you like what we're doing here, I'm really trying to grow this channel. If you could like this video, subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. If you want to be a part of what we're doing here, it's always awkward to ask for this, but I really want to grow this channel this year. I'm putting in a lot of hard work to help you guys win your league. If you find any of this useful, liking this video, watching as much of this video as possible, hitting the hype button, subscribing. I know it's corny. I don't like doing it. That's why I don't do it in every video. But if you feel obligated to help me out, I'd really appreciate it. And our last guy in this bucket is Jacory Krosky Merritt, a.k.a. Bill, the rookie running back for the Commanders. Bill's season, ladies and gentlemen, is here. And we didn't want it to happen this way. Obviously, Austin Ekeler tearing his Achilles, maybe done in the NFL after an injury like that at the age that he is. Super unfortunate. Like, we are not happy about that. But unfortunately, him being done for the year, that means that Bill is going to see a bigger role in this offense. They don't really have a running back on this team that is that good outside of Bill. I think the doors are wide open for JCM to dominate the backfield touches in Washington, to completely take over. Yeah, he's coming off a bad week 2 performance against a really good Green Bay Packers run defense that's embarrassed every single team that they've faced so far this year. So buy low on Bill now. This is literally your last chance to get him on your roster, because I expect Krosky Merritt to have better days ahead in an expanded role in week 3 against the Raiders, who have a nice run defense, but I think he is definitely playable. And remember, this is a guy in week 1 who had a big game. 10 carries, 82 yards, 8.2 yards per carry, found the end zone, 14.2 fantasy points. Obviously, it depends on if Jaden Daniels plays in this one or not. If he doesn't play, I don't like him as much, but get him on your bench, get him on your roster, and if you really need him, put him in your flex, and he could come through for you in a big way. All right, moving on to our smash starts category. Let's start with Jordan Mason, who is now the workhorse back for the Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Jones has been placed on IR with a hamstring injury at 30 years old. Like, this is Mason's backfield to lose. Even when Aaron Jones comes back, it could take longer than 4 weeks. When you're an older player who has a hamstring injury, it takes a lot longer to heal. So this is Mason's backfield at this point to lose. And we know he can fill this void perfectly. He was a workhorse back for the 49ers last year when CMC was out. And the only negatives here is that Mason's going to have to deal with an offensive line that has some injuries. Quarterback play, we know J.J. McCarthy's out with an ankle injury. Carson Wentz at quarterback, not great. But he plays against the Cincinnati Bengals, who can't stop anyone in week 3. I know their run defense has been a little bit better, but overall, their defense is not good. So I'm expecting Mason, who's honestly looked like the best running back on this roster, even when Jones was healthy. Like, it's apparent that Jordan is just much better than Jones at this point. He ranks 10th in rushing yards, above expectation per attempt. So this doesn't really need to be long, dragged out, right? Let's not overcomplicate this. He is going to see a ton of volume on an offense that should be able to move the football against the Bengals. I'm guaranteeing a touchdown for Mason in this one. Get him in your lineup. Feel really good about it. Next guy up in the smash start bucket is Javonte Williams. What world are we living in? Like, he's thriving. This man is thriving in Dallas and has completely turned around his career, coming off that gruesome injury, that knee leg injury that he suffered a couple years ago. Everyone kind of thought that he would never be the same. And while I'm not saying he's back to pre-injury form, but he's looking really good. After a very inefficient week 1, Williams got cooking in week 2, 18 carries, 97 yards, 5.4 yards per carry. He had that impressive 30-yard rushing touchdown, along with 6 receptions for 32 yards, 25 fantasy points. He has 20-plus fantasy points in each of his first 2 games as a Dallas Cowboy. I did not see this coming. I thought it was going to be the Jaden Blue show, but apparently he is not ready to be an NFL running back. It will be interesting to see what happens once Blue is on the active roster, once he's active for a game and not a healthy scratch. But for now, it's the Javonte show. Get on the train before it leaves the station, because he could be a league winner in fantasy at this point, honestly. He ranks 11th in rushing yards per attempt and yards after contact. And he's also ran for 10 plus yards on 12% of his rushing attempts, which ranks 9th in the NFL. Javonte should keep the good times rolling against the Bears in week 3. If you drafted him late in fantasy, kudos to you. And our last guy in this bucket, Ramondre Stevenson. This pains me to do this because I was all aboard the TreVeyon Henderson train. I was a Henderson believer, truther. It's not over yet, but for now, this is Stevenson's backfield. He's playing really good, and he needs to be started with confidence until something changes. To be fair, last week, Miami Dolphins terrible defense, terrible run defense. And while I'm not discounting what Rhamondre did last week, it just needed to be said. 11 carries, 54 yards, 4.9 yards per carry. He had 5 receptions for 88 yards. He had that long reception that apparently we heard after the game was supposed to go to Henderson, but he missed a couple blocking assignments and got pulled. What are you going to do with that? But 21.2 fantasy points for Stevenson in week 2, 65% of the snaps, 48% route participation, 23% target share. And guess what? He gets Pittsburgh this week, who might be one of the worst defenses against the run in football this year. I don't know what is going on in Pittsburgh. I don't know how they're so bad at stopping the run, but every single running back that's faced off against Pittsburgh has gone off. Breece Hall in week 1, 107 rush yards. Kenneth Walker in week 2, 105 rushing yards. And they both looked like Barry Sanders out there. So yeah, Stevenson is going to go off again this week because of the situation, because of the volume that he's seeing. He is playing well, and he gets another soft run defense. So get him in your lineup, and he is going to go off yet again. Let's move on to the solid starts category. Speaking of a guy we just talked about, Kenneth Walker. I apologize for putting Zach Charbonnet on my must-start list last week. Bad call by me. Walker obviously is the more talented running back. That doesn't mean Charbonnet can't be good for fantasy. That doesn't mean Charbonnet won't continue to see RB1 usage on this team, but Walker definitely outproduced him by a wide margin last week. He was really good. 13 carries, 105 yards, touchdown, 1 reception, 13 yards, 18.8 fantasy points. He only saw 36% of the snaps, Walker that is, but was dominant in his limited usage. It's going to be interesting to see how does this backfield shake out, because the coaching staff kind of turned to Charbonnet as the RB1 in this offense. Does Walker earn a larger role this week? I would assume so. I would assume it's closer to 50-50 in terms of snap percentage. Walker's must start in week 3. You have to put him in your lineup. And as much as I love Charbonnet, Walker is the better fit in Clint Kubiak's wide zone run scheme. It fits Walker to a T, and if he can stay healthy, he can earn a bigger role. He could really be in for a big year, but staying healthy is the key point here. Regardless, talking about week 3, I think he keeps it going this week against the Saints. Get him in your lineup. Feel good about it. On to our next guy that we kind of touched on. Breece Hall was really good in week 1 against the Steelers, partially because I think Hall is looking better this year, but like we talked about, Steelers not good against the run. And Hall was not great in week 2 against the Bills. I think he bounces back this week. Even if the Jets are without Justin Fields, who's in concussion protocol, the Jets are featuring Breece this year. Everything that they talked about all offseason was this running back by committee. It's not happening. Through 2 games, Hall has seen 33 touches compared to Braylon Allen's 8 touches, compared to Isaiah Davis's 3 touches. And gets a Buccaneers defense in week 3 that allowed 5 yards per play and 26.8 fantasy points to running backs in week 1. So I feel really good about Breece Hall. He looks like a different player this year. He looks a lot more explosive, and he's getting the lion's share of the work. So do not leave him on your bench after a down week 2. Even if Justin Fields is not active in this one, I am starting Breece. And on top of that, the Bucs just lost their stud defensive tackle in Kancey for the season to a torn pec. So that's another reason to get Hall in your lineup. I think he has a good game. And our last guy on this list is Chase Brown. I needed to put him on here because I know there's a lot of fellow Brown owners out there who are freaking out. He has started the season very rough, pretty inefficient, hasn't looked great, and now Joe Burrow, the engine of this Bengals offense, is done for the year. So what do we do with Chase Brown? I'm frustrated because I have Brown in a ton of leagues. I do think he's going to be okay. You should absolutely not be selling low for him. Don't panic sell. Just hold. Obviously, Jake Browning is a downgrade to Burrow, but Chase is still the workhorse back on this offense that's going to be better than you think it's going to be. Brown saw every single rush attempt in week 2. There's no real threat. Samaje Perine is not going to eat into his touches. They might put Perine on the field to block on 3rd down, but Brown saw 96% of the running back opportunity share through the first 2 games. He's the guy in this backfield. Obviously, if this offense isn't moving the ball, it's not going to be good for Chase. But what I'm hoping here is that Browning checks it down more to Chase Brown in the passing game. And I do think that Browning is good enough to keep this offense afloat. I think he's one of the better backups in football. And if you look back at some historical data, Joe Mixon in 2023 averaged 18.1 points per game in Jake Browning's 7 starts compared to Joe Burrow, where he averaged 14 points per game in 10 starts. So in 2023, when Burrow went down, Browning took over and Mixon was fine. So there is hope. And the splits without Burrow on the field are encouraging for Brown, as he's seeing a 31% target share and is the RB4 in expected fantasy points. So again, if Browning throws him the football more out of the backfield, if this offensive line can just block for longer than half a second, I think Chase Brown can still be effective. I think he can still be an RB1 in fantasy. I think he's an ultra talented player that can survive in this new situation. No, it's not ideal, but he could get going in week 3 against Minnesota, who have allowed the most rushing yards this season. So we're praying for a big Chase Brown game. Do not bench him. Do not bench him. You have to start him at this point. You have to ride the wave. And I think he produces his best fantasy output in week 3. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you like the new format. If you like this new format, I'll make it a weekly thing. I'm going to do the wide receiver version. Let me know down below what you think. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll see you in the next one.